Hey everybody, it's me, Jose Segura, your SMEA president. Welcome to another episode of Fireside Chat with the President. All right. Hey, this is Friday, October 23rd. Man, we're moving right along, aren't we? Just think, in less than a month, right, we'll be done with our first trimester, or the first 1/3 of this school year will be, for better or for worse, right, we'll be in the rearview mirror. So I know sometimes it feels like we're not moving forward, we're not progressing. We feel like every day is the same. I can't differentiate a Tuesday from a Friday from a Wednesday. But do know that we are moving forward, and that your kids are moving forward, and that you are moving forward under all of these bizarro circumstances in which we find ourselves. We are all continuing to move forward, and that's important. I don't want, or I should say, I know what it feels like to sense that you're going nowhere, and it's extremely frustrating, and it could be very stressful, but we are moving forward. All right. Now, speaking of moving forward, let's talk about conferences, right? And all of you receive a document like this in an email outlining how conferences are going to work. And so first, let me say this. There are some items within our contract language that, as defined in the contract, right, follow a particular schedule or pattern. And when those schedules or patterns are no longer exist, right, then sometimes it's hard for folks to really kind of marry contract language with whatever the new reality is. And so I've been looking at contract language, especially those things that are really kind of tied to schedules. I've been looking at it in terms of time and not schedule. And so, for example, our conference is a great example of that, right? Conferences really are about time. We never really talked about it that way, but that's really what it comes down to, right? Time within our work day, right? Not our instructional day, within our work day, to conference with parents and students. We never really talked about how much time that was, but it's always been about 2 hours and 15 minutes of each of our conference days, right? Because the bell went off at my elementary at 12:25 on conference days, my conference block of time began right after that. And so I was really kind of looking at the schedule and not the amount of time. It didn't really occur to me till recently that gave me 2 hours and 15 minutes of contract time to conference with parents every day of my conference cycle. And so that's really something we were looking at closely when we were talking in district about conferences, how our conference is going to work in this kind of virtual world. I know there's some of you out there who really want to bring parents in and do some face-to-face conferencing. There are students who are really struggling or having very difficult times with what's happening, and you want to get them in. And then there's other kids who are doing well. I mean, my nephew, who's over on Taveros, he seems to be thriving in this environment. Does he miss school? Yes, but he misses the old school, right? If his parents sent him back to school under our new guidelines, 6 feet apart, wearing a mask, no playground, take your lunch and go home, I don't think he would enjoy that so much. And so conference time is really an opportunity to connect with our parents. And the interesting thing is, if I had to guess, I would say in the last 7 months since March and schools closed down, most, if not all of you, have had more parent contact, whether it's voice communications, it's on Zooms, it's on the phone, it's text messaging, it's using things like Remind or whatever, that you have been communicating and interacting with parents more so in the last 7 months than I know a lot of us have in the last 7 years. All right. And it's because it's a necessity now. We need to engage parents in what's going on, because they have really become partners in educating their children. No longer is it just send my kids off to school and I pick them up at the end of the day and tell me what you learned. No. Families, parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, neighbors, we're all actively engaged in our children's educational process. My nephew, the one I mentioned, he comes to me 2 days a week and works because his parents work. So he's with me 2 days a week, and I'm his at-home facilitator while he distance learns. And so it's been really great to watch him go through this experience and to kind of see what that's like for a young kid. He's an elementary age kid, so he's just a little guy. So anyway, conferences. Here's the kind of the breakdown of that. Each of you got an email about how that's going to work. One of the bottom lines here is that in-person conferences are really up to you. Your site will determine how that's going to be set up, especially when it comes to things like translators. sign-up forms, things like that. But whether or not you conference in person with a parent is really going to be, like it's always been, right, up to the individual educator and our determination of how much conferencing do we need. Like I said, there are going to be some parents who we're going to contact and say, hey, you know what, we don't really need a conference this time around because we talk all the time, your kid's doing well. There's going to be other folks where you're really going to need to have them either come in or really get on that Zoom and have a heart-to-heart about how things are going for them, for their child. And so conferences, right? So again, that part is up to you. And I know your sites are already making plans for how things are going to work. And so if you have any questions, you can always contact me. You can always contact Bijou Beltran. She's the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. This is right within her wheelhouse. So, you have a couple of resources other than, your other site members and your site administration to ask questions and to get some answers. Okay, so let's move on. Next thing is cohorts. So we've been talking a little bit about cohorts. If you've been watching the board meetings, it's come up several times. We got that email from Mr. Ontiveros a little while back talking about the numbers of positive case rates in the Santa Maria Valley, differentiating that from the positive case rates county-wide, and that the county-wide's movement from the purple, which for some bizarro reason is the most extreme level or tier, down to red, which is a slightly lesser tier, that has occurred. But that hasn't occurred here in Santa Maria Valley, right? So Santa Maria Valley is the driver of high positive test rates in Santa Barbara County, right? There are other areas that are doing fabulously, keeping numbers super low. That's not the case here in the Santa Maria Valley. So it was really awesome to hear Mr. Ontiveros put that out to everybody and say, hey, you know what? Let's just look locally when we look at numbers. Let's look locally when we talk about bringing kids back onto campus. Let's just look locally when we have conversations about how we're going to progress when it comes to educating the students of the Santa Maria Valley and what's appropriate for them. And a lot of our fellow districts in our area are doing the same thing, right? They're looking at local indicators, not so much countywide indicators, because as we know, living in Santa Barbara County, one end of our county is very different from the other, and everything in between has its own differentiation as well. And so we want to be mindful that there is those differences. And Mr. Ontiveros has been tracking the data in the Santa Maria Valley pretty much on his own, which is great. I mean, that's awesome that he's been doing that and really keeping abreast of what the positive case rates look like in our area. So cohorts, bringing cohorts back onto campus. As Mr. Ontiveros' letter stated, really the district's going to start with cohorts of special day class children. And so the special day class kids can be the mild to mod, the moderate to severe, the profound kids. We have students who are in autism classes, which are essentially also mild to mod or moderate to severe. They're just autism specific. So those are the classes that are going to be participating in cohorts first. Most likely it'll be the more severe students, the moderate to severe, or the profound kids will be the first round to come onto campuses in cohorts. Cohorts, just so you know, need to follow all of the safety protocols that have been put into place. And so if you go back to the email that this video was attached to, you'll see a link to the district's attestation document. That attestation document is the district attesting to how they're going to handle all sorts of things related to running a business like a school and keeping your customers, which are our students, and your staff safe. And so that includes personal protective equipment. It includes what do you do if somebody has symptoms? What do you do if somebody presents positive? And all that is in the attestation. On top of all that, we have our district safety plan, which also includes more specific information about how we're going to bring kids onto campus. For those of you who don't know, we're already bringing some students onto campus one at a time for special education testing. And there's an entire protocol for how that is going to be operating based on safety standards, right? What do you do 24 hours before the student arrives? What do you do right before the student arrives? What do you do when the student arrives? How do you conduct safety while the student is there? And then what do you do after the student leaves, right? And those are the kind of things that our district has been putting in place to try and keep as many people safe and healthy as possible. And so cohorts will be no different. There's going to be a standard of personal protection. It's going to be a standard of safety, and those standards are going to need to be met in order for that to occur. Last part of this I want to talk about briefly, because more will come out, is testing. I've been asked about testing. Are they going to test us? Who's going to test us? When are they going to be tested? We talk a little bit about we talk about testing kind of in two different camps, right? There is the baseline testing, and then there's the surveillance testing, right? So baseline testing is probably just what you think it is. It's where everybody gets tested. We want to know who's got it, and we want to know who's got it right now, right? That's baseline testing. But baseline testing doesn't help you the next day, right? And so sure, we know who's got it and who doesn't today, but how about the tomorrows? And so surveillance testing is really about the tomorrows, and this really is where the state's guidelines come into effect, right? So the state says, hey, you're going to surveillance test, you have to test your entire staff at least once every 2 months or every 8 weeks. And so the surveillance testing format really is to take your entire 100% of your staff and break them down into chunks. So let's say we break them down into quarters, right? 25%. Every 2 weeks, 25% of your staff is going to be tested, right? If you want to do it every week, right? What's that? 17.5% or whatever is half of 25. I don't know. 12.5, right? 12.5% of your staff is going to be tested every week over an 8-week period. And then when you get to the end of the 8-week period, however it is you broke it down during those 8 weeks, you start over again. And that's where the surveillance parts comes in. So testing is going to become part of how we function. And Mr. Ontiveros, Matt Harris, who's president of CSCA, and myself will be putting out a tri-communique shortly that kind of outlines what that's all going to be about. So let's move on. Right now, no plans to bring general ed kids back onto campuses for cohorts. The only plan, and it's in the preliminary stages, is to bring back special education students from those SDC classes. And there's no timeline or deadline for that to occur. Testing's got to be put in place first. That's a priority. The department's working on a plan right now that includes communicating with all the parents of these students and asking, do they even want to bring their kids back? Because right, we don't want to plan for a student who's not going to be there. If they're going to continue to stay home, then we have to continue to plan for distance learning for that student or students who like them. And so this is all very preliminary. We have been talking to the special day class teachers across our district. We've met with them. We have an ongoing questions and answer document that we're working with. We're also sharing those questions with the special education department so that they're aware of what our members' concerns are. And I know that sites have been doing something similar so that their special day class teachers are getting answers to those questions. And so these conversations are happening. Okay, let's move on. Wellness. Okay, this is a big thing. We know we have the PD for me's. They've so far been working out really well. We had our first kayaking paddleboard event, which was basically sold out. We only had a limited number of kayaks that we were able to rent and paddleboards, and those folks had a great time. And so that was super cool, right? To be out on the bay in Morro Bay on a Saturday afternoon, really no cell phone, no computer in your hand, nobody asking you for anything, an opportunity just to be you for an hour or so on the water. And so we're going to try and plan another event. If you didn't get a chance to take advantage of this first kayaking PD for me, please consider the next one when that one is announced. And so it's just these kinds of things that really are about wellness, about you taking care of you. We are in a very stressful environment. We are working to maximum capacity on a regular basis. There are no down days anymore. There are no easy days anymore. There are no, days in which you felt like you could take a breath because you knew the big thing was coming, the next day or the day after. Every day is a big day, and every day you're running at 100%. So you need to take time for yourself. And time for yourself doesn't mean going to a PD and learning how to be better at something at your job. Sure, that's awesome. Nobody's going to deny that that's awesome. But that is not about you taking care of you. That's just about you being better at your job. And being better at your job may help in the stress, but it's still a stressful job. There are still a lot of things going on, and it's constant. And so when I talk about wellness, I'm talking about you separating yourself from the job, doing things that are just for you. So just an example, my wife and I about a month and a half ago, decided that we were working nonstop, 7 days a week. And we're really just running ourselves ragged. And so we made a conscious effort to take Sundays, not all of Sundays, but a portion of Sundays just for ourselves. We get in our car and we just drive somewhere. And driving somewhere could mean driving down to the beach and walking on the Pismo Beach. It could be trying to have lunch in an outdoor space that we feel safe in. It may just mean driving up the coast, taking the side roads instead of the 101 so that we can see, more of this beautiful area that we live in. And so the other thing we've done is to make sure that we have a plan. We don't just jump in our car and then ask each other, where do you want to go? Because that usually leads to we're going nowhere, right? So we have a plan. Hey, today's going to be our day. We're going to drive to Pismo. Or next Sunday, we're going to drive to Morro Bay. Whatever it happens to be. We try to stay along the coast because we live in a beautiful area, so we want to take advantage of that. But we really have committed to a few hours every Sunday. We work all day on the first part of the Sunday, probably don't take off until about 1 or 2. We're usually home by 5 or 6 at the latest. So we're taking a few hours of our week just for us. No kids, no dog, no nothing, just the two of us on the road doing our own thing, spending time with each other, talking about whatever it is we want to talk about. And so wellness is about doing things for you that separate you from the stressors of your life, right? I talked to another teacher who was telling me that her and her husband are both working like mad, so they don't have time to take a few hours and be together. And what they decided to do instead, which I think is fabulous, is they made an agreement that every day there's a time set up that is their time. So if her time is from 7 to 7:30 or 7 to 8 o'clock, then that's her hour. And within that hour, he handles the kids. He takes care of whatever needs to be taken care of. He makes sure that nothing comes her way. She turns her cell phone off. Maybe she goes for a walk. Maybe she sits and watches part of a Hallmark movie. Whatever she wants to do for that hour, because that's her hour of wellness. It could be exercise. It could be stretching. It could be a lot of things. It's not work, though, and it's not family, dealing with kids and things like that. And it's not even answering questions from her husband. And then he gets an hour. And I thought, well, that's awesome, right? Their life doesn't stop. When she's taking her hour, her family life is still moving on. Her husband is just taking the reins on that. And then when it's his hour, they swap. And so this is a way that they've been able to do something that provides them with some wellness time. It doesn't cost them any money, but it does help them reset themselves, relax, be detached from the stressors of their life and move forward. So what's of value to you? What's a wellness activity that you can provide for yourself to make you feel a little more centered, a little more relaxed, something that will bring you back to the you that you want to be so that you can fight the good fight the next day. So please talk about this, consider this, talk to your neighbors, talk to your coworkers, your friends. Hey, what do you do to de-stress, to relax? And again, there's always our PD for me's, right? We have our hiking club. So you're out there in nature, right? You're not on a computer, you're not Zooming, you're just enjoying the world. We have our online virtual exercise classes. I got to tell you, when you're exercising, you can't really do anything else. I don't know about you, but I cannot do 5 things and exercise. I have to focus on that one thing, right? Tonight we have our first virtual movie night. Tonight at 6 o'clock, right? Family movie night. We're watching Mulan. Sit back, relax with your family, or just you and your spouse, or just you and your dog, or just you, and just sit and watch a movie. Grab yourself a snack and kind of detach from the stressors of your life for a couple of hours. And so we're going to continue to do these things, hopefully provide some additional outlets for our folks. But look into yourself and find out what's well for you. Okay. Next thing, communication. Communication within our association is very different right now, only because we're not all on sites like we normally are, right? So if you're on campus and you have an issue, you can talk to your grade level mates, or your department mates, or whatever it is that you usually work with. Or when you are working with your folks who are in your same department, you have department meetings, you can sit afterwards and have chats about concerns that you might have, great things that you're doing, whatever it is. That's really hard to do now. It's also hard for us as an association to communicate with members because members aren't on campus every day. And so when we had members on campus, we could spread the word about something pretty quickly. And so what I'm asking from you all is that if you have concerns, if things pop up, if you're being directed to do stuff that is contrary to contract law, a contract or ed code, contact your site reps. Your site reps are still working for you. They are there. They are engaged. So please don't be shy about contacting or accessing your site reps. If you have concerns, if you have questions, if you have things you want to share. And if your site reps get questions that they can't answer, they'll bring them to me. If your site reps are getting concerns from multiple members about the same thing, chances are they'll bring that to my attention so we can have a closer look at what's going on. So please utilize your site reps. They're there for you. These are your members who have volunteered to be there for you and the other folks in your campus. And so please take advantage of that. All right. Let's see, negotiations update real quick. We met this past Tuesday, October 20th, I think it was. And we're going to meet again October 30th. That's our next scheduled event. After the October 30th negotiations, Jonathan B.A., our lead negotiator, will put out an update. So be patient. We'll have an update coming to you pretty soon. Again, October 30th is our next bargaining date. And then after that date, we will provide an update for all of you about where we are on all the items within our this particular bargaining cycle. Speaking of bargaining, most of you already know that teacher tutors have officially become part of our union, right? PERB agreed, and the district did as well eventually, that teacher tutors would be members of our local association. So that is not an issue at all. They are our members, but they are not represented in our contract, right? So teacher tutors don't appear anywhere in our contract language. So we are in the process, the beginnings of process, or the beginnings of the process for bargaining on behalf of teacher tutors. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, it means scheduling a date. So we have November 6th as our first negotiations day for new contract language for teacher tutors. So it's our bargaining day with the district, right? We've also recruited 2 teacher tutors to be on a supplemental bargaining team. So this supplemental bargaining team will just focus on teacher tutor language in the contract. It'll include some folks from our core bargaining team, 2 teacher tutors, and myself. And we've also been surveying teacher tutors to find out what it is they'd like to see in contract language, right? What is it about being a teacher tutor that they love, they want to hang on to? And what is it about being a teacher tutor that they think could be improved upon, and make their working life more productive? And so we'll be taking all that data from the survey, taking a look at it, and figuring out from all that data what's bargainable and what's not, and then moving forward with that. So that progress is definitely moving forward. Again, teacher tutors, we go to the table on November 6th for them. Our general contract, we go to the table on October 30th, and we will have an update following that. And then that's it. That's all I got for you today. So appreciate taking the time. And this was a long video, but thank you everyone for everything you do. It's so appreciated by families and students and our community. We are doing our part not only to continue to educate the children of San Maria Valley, but by distance learning, we are doing our part to keep our community safe. And that's super important. So I want you to think more globally about everything that you do, that it's not just that the things that we're doing impact us, because I know that can be stressful, but you are doing good for everybody in this community by continuing to distance teach, to be there for your students, and to make sure that they're safe and you're safe, but that education moves forward. And so thank you for that. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.